and Christians, and you are told Israelites were black, your first reaction naturally is, it is too good to be true. It is a false consolation or a hallucination. But the fact is, it is true. That is the truth. To prove nowadays that Israelites were black is not so difficult. But the most difficult part is to prove that Israelites were the ancestors of Bantu that we are. Most of us in Africa, 30% of the population of Africa, the big ethnic group, single ethnic group in Africa. It took for me about 4 years to be convinced that indeed Israelites were black and they were Bantu. If you want to take that adventure to discover the truth, you need some landmark. Otherwise, you'll get lost because many people talk about it in the social media. Some of them, they don't know much. That is why you can get lost. But there are two important landmarks. The first one is that the first human being, male and female, man and woman, they were Homo sapiens and they were black. The European scholar, anthropologists, historians, scientists, they argue, buying time, that one day they will find all Homo sapiens in the lands. It did not happen. And nowadays they are convinced, indeed, everybody in this world comes from ancestors that were black. The proof is that, for example, in UK, the man of Cedar, that they thought at least we have our oldest ancestors, because there were no technology for several years to identify the skin colors or the face of that ancestors. Few years ago, with help of technology, they were shocked to find that 10,000 years ago, their ancestors were black. It was a black. The thing is that in Europe, now it is proven that the first white skin appeared less than 10,000 years ago, or even less than 7,000 years ago. The second and the most important landmark is Egypt. When you read the Bible, you are taught in your mind that Egyptians were white people with the film, everything that we are shown. But thank God to two eminent scholars, African, Professor Sheikh Ontadio from Senegal and Professor Theophile Obenga from Congo Brazzaville. We know through the conference of UNESCO in 1974 that indeed Egyptians were black. Then knock out about 18 Western scholars of that time about Egypt to demonstrate that Egyptians were black. They were even too black. That is why we are called today black. Otherwise, some of us could have been called brown or maroon or light skin, but we were called black because the first European that the Greek from that kingdom at that time met in Egypt, they were too black. Because Egypt is where the civilizations, the science, everything that we have today came from European, Greek first took and went back to Europe to develop, they want to make Egypt white, but it can't be with the demonstration that UNESCO put its stamp on it. Those are two important landmarks that tell us that Israelites were black. Now it will be to go through all those landmarks to discover why they are not only black Israelites, but they are Bantu Israelites.